Yeah, this has been such an incredibly difficult time. We had first the pandemic, and then coming out of the pandemic, we have a national educator shortage that's impacting all of our schools across the nation. So, thinking about during the pandemic, having teachers teach remotely and students learn in their homes was a really difficult time because we missed that social connection of what we really went to school for, right? Is seeing kids learn, being able to physically interact with them, having students socially connect. So the pandemic was a really tough time in education for all, and now we're kind of paying, unfortunately, when it comes to our national teacher shortage as well. It's a very difficult time to find quality teachers because of the low amount of people in the educator pipeline. Yeah. So I'll share with you, we are very fortunate in District 112 that we started learning about Shawn Achor's Happiness Advantage pre-pandemic. And we talked about the different habits that people could learn to become happier. So as they transitioned back into school, people really saw that value of those social connections and the value of people coming together and learning together and practicing some of those habits. I'd say that our staff really was grateful for that time to learn together. They did not like teaching remotely at home. It was very isolating, and they also had a difficulty, connecting with their kids. So transitioning back, they were happy to be back. The tough part about that is, though, that social emotional impact that everyone had during those months of isolation. Students, during those months of isolation, we're seeing more impacts of their behavior of not being together. So that has been a challenge in terms of trying to meet the needs of so many different learners, and also the staff members also dealing with what they have dealt with at home and with their own families as well. Gosh, I remember seeing Andy DeRoss, the superintendent of Schaumburg District 54, talk about the impact in their school district. And when I started digging into Orange Frog, I thought, what an amazing professional development that we could bring in to our staff to teach them the principles through a really fun way, through a parable. So we trained our 550 staff members during an institute day. And then since that, we bring in all of our new staff every time there's a new teacher orientation. And most recently, actually last Monday, I hosted an institute day for all of our new staff that was hired mid-year. And it's incredible to see paraprofessionals, nurses, administrative assistants, custodians, everyone coming together to learn together and really understand how their happiness impacts our organization and our community. People always walk away so enthused and so grateful to have a professional development that not only impacts them at work but also at home. I've only heard positive feedback from all the trainings that we've hosted. Yeah, I remember, unfortunately, after the tragic events of the 4th of July in Highland Park, I called you to say, Andy, what do we do now? We've learned all about the principles of Happiness Advantage, but I'm at a loss. How do we pull our community together after such a horrific tragedy? And I remember you said, you know what to do. You have to think back about that social connectedness. So we did see those principles come alive. We pulled staff together to grieve together, to reflect, and something that came out of that were different staff members started to put into action those conscious acts of kindness. We had a former kindergarten teacher who grows flowers in her garden, and she invited one of her former classes of kindergartners to come with their families and cut flowers. And then they built beautiful bouquets and they put them together, and then they donated on behalf of the victims of the tragedy any donations from people who purchased those flowers. We had other staff members who painted rocks and had beautiful rocks that were painted with kindness and positive words, put in their rock garden in front of their schools. We had other teachers that banded together and made beautiful decorated cookies with the words Highland Park Strong and delivered those to other staff members. So people really found comfort in coming together and also thinking about how to spread kindness in such a difficult time and still try to lead with optimism because we have to for our kids. Our kids look to us, and they look to us for that strength and also for that time to bring them together as well and make sure that they're okay. It's so funny. Sometimes you hear that term like toxic positivity, and people will say like, oh, you're going to bring, some frogs there and, you're going to make us dress in orange and, I don't know if I'm into that stuff, right? And, what we talk about is it's not just that happiness, it's that optimism and thinking about, like, our kids look to us as role models. Like, if we don't have that level of positivity, if we don't have that optimism, who does? Like, that's what the kids look for. So we always say, come to the training, see what it's about, and people laugh, they love it. We have orange t-shirts with logos on it. We bring, sunglasses and all sorts of, orange swag, and they really get into it. They really enjoy it. But at the beginning, yeah, we do hear sometimes from people about, like, I'm not too sure about it. I will share for anyone who's thinking about bringing something in like the Orange Frog, we did hold several book studies, and I'll tell you, the first time I said I'll buy some books, who'd like to join? We had 250 out of 550 staff members say absolutely, sign me up, and people really enjoyed reading the book to understand prior to walking into that professional development as well. I think it's really important to weave this into your culture. So what we always do is we'll share out with the entire staff, hey, we're about to roll out another Orange Frog training. Would you mind joining us and sending out those positive ripples by wearing your orange shirt in support of that training? So that gets other people kind of excited. We're really intentional about also sharing those positive stories on social media. So it kind of gets people excited about, oh, the training's coming. We're excited to see who's going to be, involved in it this time. And I think it's really important to be intentional as to the why. And we remind people that we do take culture surveys this year. Unfortunately, even after a pandemic, a horrible tragedy in Highland Park, we were able to measure culture, and on the first day of school, we saw that 80% of our staff is highly satisfied, and and highly engaged. And that really shows us that people really do believe that we need to have intentional time to learn to impact our culture. So when we share the why we do this, I feel like people really have bought in, and it keeps that flywheel going of positivity as well. Absolutely. I'll say, one of the practices is about sharing about what you're grateful for. And that's one of the habits that people have taken on for a 21-day challenge. So I have seen teachers do this in their classrooms, and nothing is better than other teachers receiving handwritten cards from students who have, sent them why they're grateful for that particular teacher. Or I have seen teachers give their students Post-it notes and say, can you please put, these notes on other people's lockers to spread some positivity? And I love it. Our teachers take pictures and put them on Twitter, and, those positive ripples they really mean a lot. So I will say that our staff has really tried to bring the students in on some of these kindness challenges and really thinking about some of the practices that Shawn teaches in his books. Yeah, I would say, sometimes people are hesitant to start something like this. And I would say, just start. Start small. It started for us with purchasing some books, and then we said, how about a book study? And from there, we, launched Orange Frog. But I will share with you, people always say, well, it's not a good time, or I'm not sure how our staff will, receive this. And I will tell you, this is so much better than doing nothing. Our culture needs it across all of the schools, and especially when we're looking at a teacher shortage. The people that I recruit, the people that I select, when we talk about what makes our organization stand out amongst others, I talk about how we intentionally train our staff to think positively, to have that optimistic mindset. And the amount of candidates who are so excited and to learn that our organization invests in their own well-being, that's what makes us stand out amongst others. So I think for those that are hesitant, you're losing out on the opportunity to really select and also retain your staff. Power moments goes so well with everything that we've learned of Shawn Achor's work. And I will just share with you that we've done a book study, and we had our principal, one of our principals and our associate principals lead that book study and involve our staff in that. And they created peak moments throughout that book study. So one of those moments that they created was we opened up a renovated middle school, and they created a scavenger hunt for people to experience the new middle school and also kind of talk about those peak moments. So our staff absolutely loved learning about the importance of creating those peaks for people, because there's so many valleys that happen in our everyday life, right? We could identify like what are the low points that happen, but we really want to build those peak moments that people feel like the positive side of things. So after our staff started, experiencing those, they started to create peak moments for students as well. We have a librarian that after COVID, she opened up her library, and I love this. She opened up like a red carpet where students got to preview the books and kind of like walk the red carpet and see the books that they haven't seen for a while. It was just such a cute way to kind of celebrate the library. We recently had a school have a peak moment at a board meeting. They were presenting about their leadership team, their student leadership team, and the current leaders were actually going to be welcoming in the new student leaders. So they had this idea of having a balloon drop when they named the next student leaders, and they involved one of our maintenance men and one of our administrative assistants and our payroll manager, and they literally created a balloon drop in the middle of a board meeting so that when the names were announced, balloons would fall from the sky. Everyone loved that. So really, it's just changed our culture in terms of thinking intentionally about how do we make these peak moments for students and involve staff. One last one I'll share because I love this. When our administrators start their first day of work, we've taken one of the examples from the book in John Deere, and we decorate the offices of the new administrators, and our business office got super excited with it. Not only do they decorate the doors in the office of the new assistant superintendent for finance and operations, they hosted a breakfast so that everyone can meet that person. So what an incredible feeling that on the first day of work you walk in, someone's decorated your office, and now they're hosting a breakfast so that others can meet you and you could start socially connecting with colleagues. So Peak Moments is the greatest book to implement as well into your organization.